Hi everyone, it's Michael, and it's time for the July 2019 Orchid Collection update. I gotta be really transparent with you. I have very conflicted feelings about this month because I was barely home with my plants this month. Work has continued to keep me very occupied. This month alone, I was in, God, I don't even remember where I was. I was in San Francisco, I was in Miami, I was in Orlando, I was in Colorado. So it has been very challenging to commit time to my plants. And because of that, there are some real misses. So while I was gone, Justin forgot a few of the plants. Some plants aborted their flower spikes, which was really sad. But I can't expect him to take care of over 60 orchids all the time. It's a lot to ask of myself, let alone someone else. So the need to really simplify and pare down my collection remains evident. A lot of you have sounded off in the comment section saying that you don't want me to do that. If I do simplify my orchid collection, what I'll do is I'll get rid of the ones that I have represented. Like if I have a lot of the same species represented, I would simplify to my favorites. I do want to maintain a really healthy diversity of species because I want to continue to explore how they do in this urban environment. But I can't get over the fact that I don't have the time to invest in these plants, and my husband doesn't have the time to invest in these plants. So I really just have to centralize to what I can take care of effectively, because that seems to be the ethical thing to do. And beyond that, my spirits have been really sad lately. I'm not depressed or anything, and I bet you'll be able to empathize with this. Orchid growing is the one pocket in my world where I really get to tune out the outside world and invest in this gorgeous dialogue with nature. And I've been feeling sad and disconnected because I don't want it to be my husband taking care of the plants. I want to take care of the plants. Selfishly, I want to be the one to engage with them because the process of doing it is so meditative. It's like yoga. It's like deep breathing. It just makes me feel so calm and so happy. So I want to be able to be present for my plants in that way, but there's just no signs of work slowing down. So until work slows down, I do think I need to make some changes. I will keep you posted on what happens from here, but that's just a little sidebar. Now, one other really important discovery I want to note is that I do not believe that boiling leca is sufficient. When you get a new bag of leca or hydrogen, boiling it is not sufficient. All that does is kill bacteria, but it doesn't effectively leach any of the minerals out of the pebbles. Now, you'll see this as we go forward because I will pull down the culprits, the biggest orchids that are struggling against this. But some of my plants, when they were given fresh medium, just had all of this mineral buildup in the leca. And I was like, gosh, I wonder, I'm using reverse osmosis now. I don't understand why that's not resolving. What's the problem here? And it's because I took it directly out of the bag of hydrogen. I boiled it thinking that that was going to be sufficient enough to leach all of the minerals out, but it isn't. Realistically, you need to let that leca or hydrogen soak for a period of 24 hours or more to really let any minerals that exist inside of those pellets to dissolve and kind of leach out. And then you flush it and do it a few more times. So the plants that I did not do that with have been sitting in that medium for, I don't know, almost a year now. And the impact of how much it's slowed their development is evident. So I will show you that as we go through these plants. In terms of what I'm doing this month, nothing is different from last month. I'm continuing to flush once to twice a month using reverse osmosis water, and I am also watering with the dilute nutrient solution. Slow release fertilizer has been removed from the equation for all of my plants with the exception of my Cattleya types because they seem to like it, as well as my Catasetum types because they definitely like it. So having said all that, let's go ahead and jump in and talk through what's new, different, and interesting with these plants this month.
All right, my friends, jumping in with number one in the collection. This is my No ID Mini Phal, and this is so special because I've had this one the longest in the collection, and it's done nothing for a very long time. But you can see it's now just putting out a baby new leaf, and on this side it has an entirely new leaf as well. It has a basal keiki that's growing, and I'm just letting it happen. But this comes after a long period of absolute inaction, and what I did to make that happen was I transitioned a lot of my phals. Actually, I'll just walk you over there right now. I transitioned a lot of my phals to this shelf right here, which is perfect because it's right next to this moving source of air, which is really quite lovely because it creates a nice temperature drop for them. And you can see that most of them are now starting to put out new leaves, which is really special because they did nothing for a very long time. So that temperature drop has proven to be very advantageous for all of them, and I hope that continues. Picking back up with number three in the collection, this is my Wilsonara Aloha Sparks. And what I wanted to showcase here was after it being divided, after it doing really poorly, it started this new growth here. I got it repotted. I added a top dressing of sphagnum moss. And if you come into the base, you can kind of see it has put out quite a few new roots off of that new growth. This one is a survivor. It wants to live, and it is investing in all of the behaviors to do that. So I hope to see this one make a nice recovery because this one, in theory, if it establishes properly, can support the entire plant. So let's hope that that's what happens. Now let's move on to number 7. This is my Dendrobium nobile to my kids. You might remember I had to unpot it because it did not like the slow release fertilizer and it started to do all of this blackening and dieback. I got it removed. The root system immediately went nutso and really loves it. It's responding very positively to just dilute nutrient solution once again. And that's how I got it to bloom last year. So it's doing really, really well and I look forward to seeing that momentum continue. Now we're going to jump to number 12. This is my Psychopsis Mendenhall Hildos. And what I want to showcase on this one is ever since I repotted it and added this top layer of sphagnum moss, it's been drinking down its water reservoir like crazy. And these new growths are coming up so quickly, so intensely, and so vividly. Look how vibrant these colors are. So that's a brand new growth. Right next to it's a brand new growth. And there is a third brand new growth coming in right here. This one is just so happy. I do think it's approaching the time in its maturity where it will be able to flower spike for me. So fingers crossed because they're sequential bloomers and I love this bloom. Now we're going to jump to number 16. This is my Catasetum Nicolasa Tavares Dapper Dots. And just, again, what a beast. Look how big. So this one was the growth from last year. You can see how fat it is. This one is almost the same in width, but look how much longer it is. It did really, really well this year. And I mean, both of them did really well. You can see the leaves are starting to die back now, but it still has new growths coming in everywhere. Like there's one there. There's another one coming in over here. But also, I'm not sure exactly what this is. I thought it was just another new growth, but if I come in right here, you can kind of see this sharp spike coming in right in the dead center. And I think that might be a flower spike. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with this one's temperament, and I'm not familiar with the temperament of its parents. But we'll see what happens with that. Really, really interesting. Other thing I want to point out here is if you can see all this speckling, that's the damage from spider mites that were all over it. I treated it. It seemed to have gone really effectively. I don't see a resurgence anywhere, but you can definitely see the impact of when they were there. Quite unsightly. Now we're going to go to, actually we'll go to number 17. This is my Ascocenda Betty May Steele Carmela. And what I really want to showcase here is ever since I got it potted into basket culture, if you didn't see that video, I will link it below. It has put out quite an expansive root system. You'll see that this is a common theme with the rest of the video. The directionality of all of these roots, they are growing in this way. And I think that's in response to the source of humidity being over in the left corner here. You can see where my humidifier is right there. I think the roots are all reaching for that humidity, and you'll see that across the board with all of the other plants as well. Just kind of interesting, but it's doing super well. You can see the new leaves that it's coming out with seem very happy and well adjusted. It's getting really settled in the container. It's more firm than it's ever been in the time that I've had it. So that's lovely. We're going to jump now to number 18. This is my very frustrating Zygopetalum. It continues to do the I don't know what's going on thing, but this is an example of what I was talking about earlier. So this one was potted when I just boiled the potting medium and then got it potted up. And that may account for why the progress of this plant has been so up and down. I don't know if it can supersede all of the buildup that would have existed in the container. So I am going to get this one repotted ASAP. And see if that helps anything. Jumping from number 18, we're gonna go to number 20. This is my Bulbophyllum Ambrosia, and this one also did nothing for a very long time in various potting methods. When I had it in semi-hydro, it did very little. When I had it on a mount with just sphagnum moss, it did very little, but I finally just got it potted into basket culture with sphagnum moss, and look at the immediate response of this plant. Look how well it seems to like this kind of culture. It put out a brand new growth there. On the opposite end, it's putting out a brand new growth here, and there was even a flower spike that was starting, and it might still be developing right at the base here. So I'm curious to see what becomes of this. I'm not super well versed. I know that these want really high humidity, and this has been the closest I've been able to give it. So it seems to be doing well. We'll see how that goes. Now I want to move on to number 21 in the collection. This is my Pinocchio Lowy hybrid Paphiopedilum, and this one has just done so phenomenally well. Look at these beautiful expansive leaves, and this it's just so happy. It's so healthy. The root system is so well established everywhere throughout the pot. I don't know if you can really see and tell, but it's really happy. I keep waiting for it to give me a flower spike, but it just keeps giving me leaf after leaf after leaf. So hopefully eventually it'll stop that process and just give me a flower spike, because these are also sequential bloomers. So that is my path. Now we're going to move to number 31. This is my Pacific Willy Wild West. I'm going to say that wrong. But this is one of my Oncidiums. And this is another prime example of what it looks like to
not have properly cleansed potting medium. So again, I boiled the leca in this container and then I immediately potted this guy up. And this one bloomed for me super quickly when it was in Colorado. It had one of the record time turnarounds for when I repotted it to semi-hydro, getting reestablished and blooming again. But ever since we've been here, it's just been really struggling. And if I take you in, look at this buildup. And this one didn't have slow release fertilizer. This one didn't have any of those other culprits that would be problematic. It just always had this salty buildup all over. And I think that is the minerals that were contained in the leca pellets themselves that were never properly leached out. So this is another one I'm going to get repotted. Now we're going to jump to number 33. This is my Dendrobium nobile tangerinum. Again, one of the ones that just has been so up and down. I don't know what's going to happen with, but it does appear ever since I repotted it and got the slow release fertilizer removed, it's putting out a new growth. Hopefully that'll continue to gain momentum and support itself, but I don't know and I'm not holding my breath. On to number 36. This is my Fred Clarkiara After Dark SVO Black Pearl. I treated this one for spider mites, but I don't know if you can even see it. There is a resurgence of them. You can see the web right on top. So I'm going to have to get this one treated again, which is very frustrating. But the new growth does appear to be doing really well. Look at this root system. It has ventured down into the medium. It has a lot of positive momentum, which is probably why those spider mites are feasting so intensely on it. Also, I've sustained really great humidity in the apartment, so there's no reason I should be having these issues with spider mites. But I think that this happens because I keep them right here by the window, and when I open it up to create airflow, I think that it creates a dryness that allows those spider mites to kind of take hold. So I might need to reconsider where I have this placed. And then last in this group, we're going to talk about my Spathoglottis plicata. I thought this one was a goner for sure because all of the pseudobulbs dried up and dissolved. I got it repotted, and you can see all of the old long leaves started to die back. This is the last of them. But then look what started to happen down at the base. I don't know if you can tell, but it put down this gorgeous new root system, and it's actually starting to create these plump, juicy pseudobulbs on each of the new growths, which is very promising. That's exactly what it's supposed to be doing, but it's never made it this far before. So hopefully that continues. All right, picking back up with number 46. This is my Oncidium Twinkle, white pink. And this one is just doing so well ever since I got it repotted and added that top layer of sphagnum moss. It has a new growth coming in really nicely. All of the dieback has halted, and it just seems to be happy and well adjusted. So you can even see this guy right here. The pseudobulb is developing really nicely. So hopefully I will have a flower spike soon. Now we're going to jump to number 48. This is my Cymbidium Murasaki sinens. This is another one where I had to remove the slow release fertilizer because it did not like it. And as soon as I did, all of this strange burning and splotching stopped, which is lovely. These really started to accelerate. You can see that the pseudobulbs are really starting to swell at the base now, and it put out this lovely new growth. So that seems to be really happy and on its way. Now we're going to go to number 51. This is my white wedding day Phalaenopsis, and look at it. Oh, it's so happy. I love when they stop growing straight upright and start to grow all funny and natural. I love it because this one's just jutting straight out towards the light, which is beautiful. But let me just show you. This one is just starting to open. I don't know if you can really see, but you can just barely get a peek into it. But it has been developing over the course of the last month, and it's just starting to bloom. So I'm so excited to see this. It's the first time I've ever gotten this one to rebloom. Very pleased. Now moving on to number 53. This one is quite an interesting little narrative. This one is also included in that group. So this was one plant up until yesterday, until I had to forcibly divide it. So when Justin got this for me, it was covered in keikis. And I've always heard people say you have to divide the keikis off because eventually they are going to cannibalize the mother plant and the mother plant will die. And I believe I have some footage of it, which I will insert here. So I was just tending to my orchids as I do, and I noticed that something was wrong with number 53. This is my Dendrobium hibiki. So I was actually pulling on this because I noticed it had a rotting pseudobulb. So I was like, oh, I might just be able to gently tug it out of the medium. And when I did, I realized that the one that was rotting is actually the main pseudobulb, the main cane that everything is growing off of. But you can see all of these keikis are kind of cannibalizing the mother cane. So now if I don't separate them, I think that they will all die. So as you can see, I had to go ahead and remove those keikis. This is actually two plants. This one was the actual mother plant here. So this cane that it's attached to is the mother plant. But what I did is I clipped it, I dipped it in cinnamon to close the wound, and I'm just going to wait and see if I can get this potted into an appropriate size container, or just kind of see what happens from here. I'm curious to see if this will sustain itself or if this will continue its rot. I'm not quite sure how things will go, but I'm curious to find out. On to number 54. This is my Epilelio Cattleya. This is a volcano prince, if I'm not mistaken. And again, this is one of those themes where the roots are reaching towards the humidity, but the plant is reaching towards the light. This one is doing phenomenally well. Those flower sheaths are really starting to fill out. And I don't know if you can tell, but the flower is actually starting to develop inside of the sheath now. This one has done so well with the slow release fertilizer. In fact, if I take this and flip it around, you can see, look how sizable the new growth that came in this year is. Big guy compared to the other ones. Much smaller growth. So this one does seem to really receive slow release fertilizer very well. Now, this is a sad story. This is number 58, my Coryanthes macrantha. Such a beautiful plant, and it was in spike. And this is one of the ones that Justin forgot while I was traveling, and the flower spike aborted really quickly. So that's quite sad. But I got it watered, and this one is just like resilient AF. Because if I hold it up, you'll see, sorry, I'm just being careful. It has another thing coming in at the base. Now, this one is starting to curve, so it makes me think it's a new growth and not a flower spike. But we'll see what becomes of that. It's really interesting how quickly it put it out. So that's what's going on with the Coryanthes. Now we're going to go on to number 61 in the collection. This is my Potinara Mickey D. Kobayashi, and it's doing really well, I think. But it's putting out all of these new roots, but none of them are making contact with the actual medium, which concerns me. I think that there's a strong possibility that I will have to divide it right down the middle here and make this 2 plants, because it's just growing at such a strange, it's just growing oddly, and I don't think it has enough access to the water that it needs, because you can see that the pseudobulbs are actually, or the canes are starting to desiccate just a little bit. So I do think I want to get this divided and repotted. We will see. And last but certainly not least, we have number 62 in the collection. This is my Epilelio Cattleya Volcano Trick Paradise. And this one is just doing amazing. Again, roots are super crazy and expansive, all reaching towards humidity, while the bulbs reach for the light. You can see flower spikes coming in really nicely right up here. So this one has had a really accelerated development, but also it's so interesting to see how this one has reached and succeeded inside of the container. I mean, just look at, let me get a better grip. Oop, just spilled all over myself naturally. But if I can just get a better grip on it, you'll see this has had no problem acclimating to this grow environment. It really received the repot well. So I'm super pleased to see how this one goes, and I can't wait to see it in bloom again because it's gorgeous. So that's pretty much it, you guys. I think the core theme for this month is that I know what needs to be done for each of these plants to survive and do better, and even thrive, but I just haven't had the luxury of time to do it, which really frustrates me intensely. So again, some changes are coming. I'm not sure exactly what they will look like, but I do want to do better for my plants. I do want to do better for myself. And I also want to revisit the beautiful meditative act that is orchid growing. So with that, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, as always, for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comments section below. And always be sure to support and be kind to one another in the comments section, because I am so seldom available to do so. I hope you are all doing incredibly well and have a beautiful rest of your day. I love you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.